Welcome everyone, it's Glacier Guy and Rock the Glacier as always. It is the 16th of July. It is the studio update. We're going to be talking about what's been going on the table and in my life, and we got a lot of news, so let's get into it. Starting off first, the big reveal, the grand reveal. Let's click this thing. Let's go over. 1, 2, 3, click, and that's right, ladies and gentlemen, I got engaged. And so this is just a teaser. This is just a preamble. You'll have to wait. I have no idea how long you'll have to wait, but at some point you'll meet her, and it might just be her like running past me in the hallway. I don't know, but you'll meet her, and it'll be adorable because she is the best girl. And yeah, that ring is not a diamond. That is a moss agate set on sterling silver because she really prefers crystals over diamonds. And we both also agree, the diamond industry is a bit sus. And I know there are lab-grown diamonds, so that was if she was a diamond person, I would have went with a lab-grown diamond. But she prefers gemstones and crystals, and so we went with a moss agate on sterling silver. And I did a lot of the picking out. I did ask her kind of like what kind of I showed a bunch of different designs, a bunch of different styles, and I was like, hey, of these 20, which ones do you like the most? And I narrowed it down to what I was like, okay, so she likes this, this, and this, and then, but she never saw this ring because of all the things I showed her were similar, but not this one. And so it was a surprise when she did get to see it. And it is also a 2-part ring, which she has just part 1 on now, and when we get married, she'll get part 2. So I was like, hey, you only get this part now, and you get part 2 when we get married. And yeah, but she is the best girl, and I can probably spend the next 45 minutes to an hour to maybe 2 hours talking about all the great things. But we got to get into the studio update, and we don't want this video to be way too long. Also, she watches my videos, so if I keep talking about her, she will get embarrassed and blushy, and she's probably blushy right now. So let's just move on. What do we got going on next? Let me see if I can click through. Hold on, there we go. All right, so I painted this a little bit ago, but you guys haven't seen him yet. This is my first test model for my Plague Marines, for my Death Guard, and I went with a Dusk Raiders color schemes. If you don't know who the Dusk Raiders are the chapter color scheme name before, it's during the Horus Heresy, before Mortarion was recovered. I forget what planet he was recovered from. But when the Great Crusade went out, most of the Space Marine chapters and legions, there were legions back then, not chapters, but most Space Marine legions were just like a slate gray sort of version of power armor. They didn't have a whole lot of color on them. Some of them did have some embellishments, but a lot of times it was mostly just like a slate gray. And all their bolters were very similar based upon whatever mark pattern they were wearing. And the Dusk Raiders adopted the red right arm shoulder pad combination. And then everything else was still gray with a little bit of gold embellishments. But we had to translate that into more of a 40k armor, being there more embellishment on the 40k armor than there is on the Horus Heresy armor. So we went with a Dusk Raider color scheme, and I've adopted it onto that. And we kept the Nurgly putrefied bits more of a pink. Just because they are kind of, a lot of the ones, it's like green armor, but pink, like Nurgly bits. And so that's kind of what we went with. And yeah, we'll take a little quick tour around him. And this is right after I washed him while he was still drying. So it looks a little bit more muted in person. But I unfortunately don't have a picture. And I don't want to take a picture. But I don't have a picture like already pre-ready for what he looks like when he was fully dried. I haven't done the base yet because I'm just going to do all the bases at the same time. But yeah, I really do like how this part right here, I don't know, I wasn't going to paint this at first, but I really like how this kind of turns out. So yeah, let's, all right, so this is the color scheme for my Death Guard. And as you see in the background, we got this little honking creature right here. And what is that? Well, that is this. So that is my Nurgle, I think it's called a Nurgle Defiled Land Raider. And yes, it is a Defiler and a Chaos Land Raider mashed together. The lore behind this, in my head canon, is that he is the cultist or whoever's driving him, the Chaos Space Marines, the Nurgle guys, they were not properly honoring the machine spirits. And since they weren't honoring the machine spirits, and it decided just become what did it call them? A demon engine? Yeah, it decided to become a demon engine and outgrew a defiler. And so it's the defiler just growing out of which all the tentacles and everything growing out of the Land Raider. And we have some lovely, I really think this color scheme with the gray and the red really pops really well. And I kept the same thing with the right arm being red, both on both sides of the defiler. I did put some more red on the side, but on the claws, and then I left the left arm just gray, which I think really kind of pops. Yeah, so we got the land. I think it looks awesome. We went a little messy with the washing, the panel line washing, but I kind of think it really fits Nurgly themes. Got a bunch of tentacles going on, and this model was a joy to paint after a certain period. Once I got to a certain point, because it was sub-assembled and I started putting them all together, it kind of came together really well. I could have done some more silvering along these pistons and area, but I think it looks fine as is. But yeah, keep going on around, take a few more glamour shots of the back. I really like this guy in the back. Let's zoom in. Look at him. Look at him. He's so menacing. Feed me, Seymour. Feed me. But yeah, these, surprisingly, hard to paint. All right, yeah. So, let's keep going. And then get a little more angle around the side. The autocannon. You know, it's weird because I tried to straighten the autocannon out, but it's just how it goes. And I think that might be... Nope. Okay. Yep. All right. So, what am I going to use this in game? So, one of two things. I can use this either A, as just a defiler, which I would beforehand say, hey, I'm just taking this as a defiler. Or I can say, hey, I'm taking this as a Land Raider. And I can either take because the defiler part's magnetized, I can either take the defiler part off. I can't take his claws off. But I probably just leave them on there. And or for house rules, I made a profile. He is a Nurgle defiled Land Raider, and basically all I did was take the defiler profile and Chaos Space or the Nurgle Chaos Space Marine Land Raider and put the profiles together, like added the points so they were just the points totals combined, and then basically just kind of made the profiles, gave all the best attributes. So I looked at both wound tables, picked out the best wound table for both of them, smashed them together, gave them all the weapons. So this thing is like, I don't know, 500, 400 something points, 400, 500 something points, and he's got the Crushing Claws, the Defiler Cannon, the Auto Cannon, the Twin Heavy Flamer, the Twin Auto Cannon, Twin Heavy Flamer, two las cannons, or two Twin las cannons, the Twin Heavy Bolter. He has loaded with weapons. I think this is like an awesome version of like a big beefy monstrosity. I left him heavy support, but I could see you saying I could see someone thinking this was like a Lord of War because it's just so many guns, and he's Nurgle. He's got all that other stuff. And what I did is I upgraded his carrying capacity to 20 Poxwalkers, 10 Plague Marines, or 20 Poxwalkers, or 10 Plague Marines, or 5 Terminators. And so I think this would be a really awesome, like souped up, creepy version of the Land Raider to like take the Land Raider from what it is and like just make it more grotesque and just add more points onto it. And so when I run them in a list, in my 2,000 point list, I just take a Defiler and a Land Raider on my list, and then I'm just like, hey, they're one model. And if you manage to wipe, he's got like 30 wounds, but if you manage to wipe him out, that's a huge chunk of the army gone. So I really liked it. And the reason why I made this creation was I just didn't like the Defiler's crab leg body situation going on, and I didn't like how sometimes you couldn't really fit him very well around terrain or in terrain, and I just didn't like the crab legs. It was a big thing. And I have done another custom Nurgle Defiler before, but I had that in a different paint scheme, and I changed my paint scheme from a more of a pink paint scheme into this gray Dusk Raider paint scheme. And I think this looks really well. Let me know. But yeah. So that's what I painted before, and then we're moving on to what I've been working on since. So this was before my engagement. This was like a couple days before I got engaged, so I finished painting all these. And then after I got engaged, my fiance was here visiting for a few days, and then she went back. She's going to move here in a couple weeks or months or whatever. She's going to move here permanently, but she had to go back and she just sort of lives in a couple states away. So she doesn't live like in another country. It's not like I didn't order a mail order bride or anything like that. Although that'd be kind of funny. We should joke about that. I should be like, "You're my mail order bride," and she's like, "Did you pay extra postage?" I don't know. I think she'd find that kind of funny. But all right, let's go to the next thing. So you have seen this army on the table. I've used it in at least one, if not two, stop motion battle reports. I think two actually. But I have some news. I don't think it's bad news. I just have some news. I don't like this army anymore. And there's a combination of reasons I don't like this army. But it's got a lot of really good models in it. It's got the entire Series 1 Space Marine Heroes Tactical Marines. It's got 2 squads of those, and it has at least one of every single model. It has the entire Space Marine Heroes Series 2 set, which I think is really good. But it's not... It's just not working for me, and I think it's a little bit of the fact that I made my World Eaters a very similar color scheme to this, but I prefer my World Eaters in that color scheme than I do my Blood Angels in this color scheme. And I've just kind of fallen out of favor. I don't want to play it. I don't really like looking at it when I walk past it. And so I have put it up for sale on my local Facebook Marketplace and my local Warhammer groups, and there's been some interest, so we might actually have it sold today, tomorrow, or the next week or so. But we put it up for sale, very low price, considering how much I paid for and put time into the models, and hopefully it'll go to a good home, and we'll see some more people playing it. Yeah, so we're parting ways with the old Blood Angels, and we're moving on to the Atlantean Spears. And so I wasn't going to get rid of Blood Angels altogether. I was looking at the Codex, and I was like, I should probably just paint a normal Blood Angels army and make a very coherent Primaris-only force, because I wanted to make a Primaris-only Blood Angel force kind of because a lot of people rely heavily on Sanguinary Guard and Death Company and things like that. And there are Death Company intercessors, but I do have to look into those a little closer. But probably not for the Atlantean Spears. And let me talk about that. If you go to page 31 on your Blood Angel Supplement Codex, you got the Atlantean Spears. And so they are they're the only colors. So mostly it's red and black with a little bit of white accent. You got the Lamenters, which are yellow. And then you come over and you get the Atlantean Spears. Now, they do have the Crusader Blades, which they look metallic, but I've seen the Crusader Blades, and they're actually a gray, not a metallic. So very interesting there. The blood sides are white. They're an Ultimate Founding chapter. So if you wanted a Primaris-only chapter that's canonically Primaris-only, you couldn't go wrong with the blood sides. I wonder if they're the only Ultimate-only Founding chapter. Maybe not. Oh no, the Knights of the Chalice are a purely Primaris chapter as well. Now, but the Atlantean Spears. Let's get into Atlantean Spears real quick. Just a small paragraph. The Atlantean Spears ignored Dante's call for aid. That's spicy right there, because I think one of the chapters of Blood Angels was refused. Like Dante specifically did not call them. I can't remember who they were. Were they not the Flesh Eaters? It's one of these, and they might not be on here. Bloodrakers maybe, but one of them was was specifically not requested. It might have been the Lamenters. I could be wrong. But so the chapter's large librarian, the chapter's large librarius received the message, but took no action. For millennia, the chapter has fought to pacify the enclave of Alkina and the sanctuary of Constantia in the segmented Tempestus, relying on the gift of foresight present in an unusual number of librarians to respond to the innumerable Xenos and heretic threats that terrorized the vast region. And so that's pretty much all we get from the Atlantean Spears. There is some more lore about the Atlantean Spears. There's a White Dwarf where it covers one of the newer wars. I think the Archok War. I forget to pronounce it. But so the Atlantean Spears. Now, the color scheme that I went with, a very teal. In this color scheme, they're very bright. They're kind of a muted teal with a lot of bright blue accents and highlights. It's a little bit color off of the picture. The picture is more of a sea foam green. and with less aggressive highlighting. But I do like the way this version came out, and it's pretty close. I think in the codex and the one picture, because you do have one picture, and I really wish they would have done like an official how to paint this color scheme, because they only show it in like 2 places in the codex. So page 44, if you have the codex, they show off the Lamenters, the Cruer Blades. No, I guess that is a silver. And then the Atlantean Spear Infiltrators. But the Atlantean Spears in this are a little bit more muted, and I wish they would have done like how to do this, because this looks actually a little bit more gray than teal. But they do say it's a teal color scheme, and so it's very desaturated, very muted, not very vibrant. So, yeah. Now, but what I went with is I went for a little bit brighter of a color scheme for my Atlantean Spears, and these are 2 Sergeants. And so I basically just built these 2 models, and I painted them to kind of test out the color scheme. And and so let's go over. So I free-handed the Trident symbol, which on the Intercessor, or the Infiltrator, looks way better than on the Assault Intercessor. But I still think they look really good. And I had done some squad markings on the other shoulder pad, but they did not turn out well. So we did not. So we repainted over that. So that's why it's a little brighter. We did the combat roll markings on the knee pad. So we got a fire support, and we have a close support for the yellow for close support, because the Blood Angels still follow. Typically, the Blood Angel helmets will be whatever their support role is, but the Atlantean Spears do have gold helmets, so we went with the gold helmets on the spears. We went with the marking symbol on the knee pad for. And I know that the Infiltrators can both fill a close combat role, or at least canonically, they can fill either a close combat. No, actually, they can fill either a battle line role or a fire support role. And I decided for these ones to just be fire support role. I'm going to have 4 squads, 4x5 assault infiltrators, and 2x5 or assault intercessors, and 2x5 infiltrators. So I might make the other infiltrator squad a battle line color scheme where the knee pad's red. But other than that, that won't decide what I'm going to do with them on the battlefield. It's just more of a kind of like heraldry. And so I really do like the way the Atlantean Spears turned out, although they don't perfectly match the given color scheme. The thing is there's not a lot of like how to paint, or there's one video that I've noticed on like a guy, I forget his name, but he was showing how he was painting his Atlantean Spears, where I got the inspiration for the gold arm. And so I was trying to, how do I denote a sergeant in a squad from a distance, for just to be able to like, oh yeah, that's a sergeant. Aside from the fact that this sergeant's carrying a thunderhammer and a plasma pistol. Well, all of their helmets are gold, and I was going to change the color of the helmet, and I have the knee pad color, and I was like, oh wait, why don't we just we'll just make that, because the other guy did make the arm of one of his infiltrators, or I don't know if they were infiltrators or incursors, but they did make the arm of one of his gold, and I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So all the sergeants in the army will have gold, and so all the leaders will have gold on their right arm, and whatever the squad leader is, and then but all the rest of them, the non-squad leader models, will just have teal for their right arm, and that's how I'll denote the color scheme. And but yeah, so that is where we're at with the studio update. We've been talking for a lot longer than I was intending, but a lot of good stuff happened. Oh, one last thing. A few things. We've been printing a whole lot of terrain. We got a lot of ice terrain. We got some volcanoes in the work. We printed and painted an entire trench network, and you'll probably see that at some point. Oh, another thing. So my book that I keep hawking and a lot of my videos keep mentioning, it is still for sale. The link's below. But I contacted the local library, and because I had a couple extra copies, and I was like, hey, I self-published a book. How do I, is it a way for me, as just doing this all by myself, for a way for me to get my book into the local library? And they transferred me to a lady she emailed me back and she said, yeah, sure. Like if you're willing to, like, they will buy books, but I don't sell my book through a wholesaler. I sell my books directly from Amazon. So there's like questions about wholesalers and whatnot, because a lot of libraries like to buy their books through wholesalers. At least that's what I looked like online. And I just, and I don't have any, like they asked for like, do you have news, do you have like, articles in local newspapers about you being an author? Do you have any awards or anything? And I just said, no, I don't have any awards. This is my first book. I was just going to donate a couple copies just to like put them in circulation. And she's, yeah, come on down. Just bring them to the local library, and they'll make their way to the distribution center, and then they'll make their way into the library catalog. So I have 3 copies of my book, Our Galaxy War, Book 1, The Gathering, in my local library, which I think is pretty neat, and my fiance is super stoked about. It's funny because like, we always talk about how I was like, yeah, I published a book, and I'm like, I'm excited about it, but not like ecstatic about it because it just took so long to do. And anything I do about it, like getting into the library, or anytime like I make a sale, or anytime someone makes a review on it, like she gets super hyped for it because she also has written books before, and yeah, so. And I'm just a little more muted, and she's way more excited. But so that's been the studio updates, and we're gonna get on. We have we got a couple other test models for some Space Wolves. So we're doing some Space Wolf test models. We're gonna be doing a brown color scheme, mostly just because you don't see a lot of brown Space Marines. And I was like, well, wolves are not always, like, canonically, wolves in nature are not always blue or gray or white or black. Sometimes they are brown, especially in the summer. And I was like, let's go for a brown earthy tone on some Space Wolves. So I have a bunch of different, like one model from different squads, like Bloodclaw, Grey Hunter, two different Terminators from 2 different squads, and an Assault Intercessor to kind of like throw a little Primaris in there. And we're going to be doing some paint schemes. So we're going to be using some Vallejo. Our base color is Vallejo Earth, model Air Earth, and we're going to be rocking that. And then after we do some test models, we're going to get right back into the Death Guard. We got a whole bunch of zombies and Poxwalkers all primed up. Everything except for Mortarians primed. But yeah, we got to get into it. So let's get that airbrush going. And I hope you guys have a great day, and see you around. Goodbye.